Well, hello everyone. I'm Bob Nagan, and welcome to the Big Shift. Today, I'm excited to have three good retailers, good people, good friends join us, and we're going to talk about breakthroughs and, this idea of every business, people think of growth as being like this. I'm going to grow 10% a year, but that's just not how it works. What happens is it goes for a little bit and then something gets in the way and then you
Mhm.
break through. So really growing your business it's almost a series of breakthroughs. You grow for a while, you get stuck for a while, then you break through. And that's why I'm really excited to talk to Marie, Jill, and Angela about the breakthroughs that they've had in their businesses. And hopefully, you'll be inspired by them, that you'll learn from them, that you'll get ideas about maybe where you should go and can go to get your own breakthroughs. But, guys, welcome. So
Thank you.
before we start, if you wouldn't mind, if you're here, if you wouldn't mind putting, your name, the name of your store, and where you're from in the chat, that would be great. We'd love to see who you are, and you could also put what you're hoping to get out of today. That would be helpful too. But before we start our conversation, would the three of you just sort of introduce yourself quickly so everybody knows who we're talking about? I'm going to look at my screen here. Marie, you're in the top left. Would you start?
Sure. So I'm Marie Foley. I recently retired last year, but for 43 years, I had businesses in historic Concord, Massachusetts, 28 years with my sister. And then I started my own little venture that was started as Revolutionary Concord, morphed into Revolutionary Concord Albright Art Supply, and then I added a toy box, 26 steps down a stairs in a basement, all three stores.
And just as an aside, whenever it would rain, Marie's store would flood. So that's a whole nother story.
And
But
it's pouring here today, and I'm so glad I don't have to worry about it. But one other
and
big
so
thing I wanted to mention is I went from 125,000 to 1.4 million, starting with the accelerator. So we'll talk about that later.
that's great. That's great. And so, we talked about the steps and the floods, and Marie is truly one of the most resilient people I know. So, I'm so glad that you're here, Marie. Jill, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Of course, my name is Jill Jack, and myself and Lewis, my other half, own the Pet Bistro. So we started 21 years ago, actually, as a home-based business, moved it into retail, have grown, doubled space, and now we have two retail stores, an online store, and we also offer local delivery. We're a holistic and all-natural store for cats and dogs, so really focusing on food and nutrition. We also have animal chiropractors that work out of our location, and then I'm a naturopathic doctor, so I do a lot of naturopathic consults with our clients. So yeah, it's been fun, and
Wonderful.
I think I've done we've participated in all ways of whiz bang. We're
You know,
lucky that we're in Michigan and you're within driving distance, and we've participated in a lot.
yeah, no, Susan and I were talking about this before we started, and Lewis and Jill, I mean, I literally every high end, every program that we've done in the office, which, tend to be, small, intensive, high ticket, high impact items, Lewis and Jill have been to. And we're always grateful to see them and to have them participate. And then finally, last but certainly not least, Angela, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. So I'm Angela Skogan, and I own a kitchen specialty store in Western North Dakota called Cooks on Main. I opened in the fall of October 2010. So I'm halfway through my 16th season. I actually had some corporate experience in retail before that. But my little town's about 35,000 people, but I service about a 200-mile radius with our single store. We do offer culinary classes, catering, and kind of everything kitchen.
Yeah. And it's a great store, and Angela is a great merchant. So wonderful. Thank you. And again, thank you all for being here. So now that everybody who's watching has a little context, we have three different industries, three different parts of the country. We don't have anybody from the West Coast here, but we have the Great Plains, Michigan, Great Lakes, and Maria's on the East Coast. So I guess the reason I'm sharing that is what we're going to talk about is not industry specific. It's not, location specific. These are sort of general retail opportunities. So breakthroughs, a moment. Let's talk about what a breakthrough is. A breakthrough is an aha moment. It's being in a room or a place where something clicks. For me, my first retail aha moment, my first breakthrough was in the early 80s at the Fontainebleau Hilton in Miami Beach. And I was there for the Kite Trade Association. And J. Conrad Livingston had just written Guerrilla Marketing, and he was the keynote speaker. And it was, oh my gosh. I mean, my head exploded because I didn't have to figure, I mean, somebody had figured out how to do marketing. And I mean, I look for them, but someplace I still have the notes, the many pages of notes from that keynote. But the reason that I share that story is there's all these little moments, there's all these little people, there's all these little places. Sometimes they're not little, that lead to that next level of growth, that breakthrough that leads to that next level of growth. So let's just sort of switch it up. Jill, I mean, tell us about a breakthrough or two of yours, and give us some context, please.
So I was thinking about this, and I think one of something that brought a lot of clarity for us was Lewis and I both wrote a vision plan, and we wrote it separate and then read it out loud and found that we were very much both on the same page. So prior to the vision plan, I think we were just doing business just to do business. It was fun. It was, a passion and a hobby that turned into something with some realistic goals to it. When we started our business, Lewis and I were both in different industries working daytime jobs and had one employee, then working the pet bistro nights and weekends. And once we had that vision plan, though, that manifestation of what we both wanted on a piece of paper put us in alignment to put us on the path that we needed to go on, which that vision plan has been helpful in many other ways. So also, in addition to some of the things that I've done with WhizBang, I was also in a cohort for Goldman Sachs 10K small business. You had to have a vision plan. We've been part of other groups with WhizBang. You have to have a vision plan. But Lewis and I both have in alignment where we want to go, what we want to do, and we've been able to share with staff that has come in and managers that have come in, so they also are in alignment of what we want and where we want to go. But I think that roadmap is a super important piece. If you don't have it, that's something that people should focus on.
Yeah, and it's so true because a vision statement or a vision plan, as you call it, it's hard to get where you want to go if you don't know where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
It adds specificity to what you're trying to do. And I love what you just said, because when two people write vision statements, it's really helpful if they align. Susan and I did the same thing, and it's like, whew, thank God, because we've seen a lot of couples write their, okay, let's write your vision. And they write their vision. It's like, oh, we're trying to go to different coasts in the same car. And it
Right.
doesn't always go as well as you hope. So Marie and Angela, all three of these people have been both in the Business Breakthrough Accelerator program. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but part of that process is writing a vision. And
And
coincidentally,
we wrote that vision when did we say we were in the group, Marie?
in 2015.
2015. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah. So
I've
11
written
years ago is
5
when we
vision
wrote that.
statements since then.
You
Still have
so
the
you
same
keep
one.
updating them. That's great.
Yeah.
So what would you say about your vision, Marie? I mean, I mean, clearly you believe in it because you've written five of them.
Yeah, so the first time I wrote it actually was after I had been at the BBA and I was in the Chicago airport on the way home. And I sort of did an outline because we had talked about it there. And so I did an outline of what my vision plan should be. And I had gone into the BBA thinking I was going to close my store in a year and a half when the lease was up, even though I had just been in it for a year and a half. It's kind of how I went into that business to just sort of get a little bit more retail under my belt. And after that, I said, no, I want to like do great things. I don't want to just do this. I want this to be my life's calling. I love it. And so I had to reformulate all of my thinking. And in order to do that, I had to put it down on paper. And then a year ago, January, we were all together for a meeting and I redid my vision plan because I was going to close the store due to family health concerns. And so that needed a whole different vision plan. And in between, I had three others to open a toy store, which I did, and many others, just kept retweaking them.
That's great. And so I think that the important thing here is that that statement, that plan, that document, that and it's written. If it ain't written, it ain't real. As some of you may have heard me say that before,
Yeah.
but it really makes it concrete. And just as a quick aside before we get to Angela, this is not foo-foo woo-woo stuff. This is stuff built in science. And Walter Lippmann, who was the head of the National Propulsion Lab, I believe, called it preferred futuring. And, this idea that you have a big future, but you don't know how to fill in the gaps. If you think about all the things that need to be done, you become overwhelmed, demotivated, and it doesn't get done. But if you know what you want and you keep your eyes on it, all of a sudden what needs to be done sort of naturally, organically presents itself, finds its way to you, and allows you to get there. So
And it's a living document.
it's a living
You
document.
keep, you got to keep reading it and changing it. Otherwise, you're not following the plan if you don't read it.
That's right. It just goes in the drawer.
Right.
So, Angela, tell us about your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jill really hit it right on the nail for me. I mean, I have lots of bullet points of breakthroughs, but I mean, it really does start with your vision statement. I kind of forgot that we did that then. It was so fun because I think so many small business owners, shop owners, entrepreneurs, like we know what our vision is, but it's very important to put it pen to paper. And so that was the first thing that we did there that I thought was really important. But one of the breakthroughs for me was after the vision statement because I was pretty clear on where I wanted the store to go. I was pretty young in my career as an entrepreneur. But for me, I think what it led to was really that goal setting on a couple of different levels. So long-term goals, we're talking 5, 10 years out, always have to be revisited. Shorter term goals might be 1 to 3 years out. What are you doing to set yourself up for success? And then your short-term daily goals of what you want to accomplish this year, this quarter, the next 6 months. Getting that structure down and knowing that it's always changing. So my vision statement really hasn't changed, but my goals within that on long-term, midterm, and short-term goal setting is really important because it's so easy as a business owner to get pulled into 500 different directions in a day. And so getting that on paper and revisiting that on a consistent basis, I think has really led to success and allowed me to move my business and my personal life forward at a very reasonable pace. And you don't get bogged down with the day-to-day stuff because
Yeah.
it's like, is it part of my goals? Is it something I need to worry about? Is it something I have to address or haven't thought about? And the BBA for me really helps structure the process. So I had worked in corporate America where I could be in a cube, get my job done, work with my teams, and that was it. that's not what you really get to do as a business owner. You are constantly getting pulled into 500 places. And so having the structure of goal setting or time blocking your schedule, I think was a huge game changer. Those two things for me, I feel like were some of the biggest takeaways that helped me transition from corporate expectations and shop owner expectations into really leadership and future thinking. So like strategizing, structuring the business was really important for me.
That's great. And so I'll just share with you to everybody who's watching. So what I shared with these three is, look, we just want to talk about breakthroughs. What were your breakthroughs? Where were you? What happened? What was the breakthrough? And what did it mean to you? And I find it so interesting that vision was an important part of all of yours because I really didn't know what you were going to say. You could have said, oh, for me, it was J. Conrad Livingston saying, oh, marketing is a thing that you can organize and build a plan around. And to you, all three of you saying that there's this vision that once I understood where I was going, it made it a lot easier to get there. So I didn't know where this was going to go. And I'm very happy to hear that because Susan and I are really big proponents of writing a vision anyway. And so since we were sort of talking about it, uh, what I do want to talk about here, real quickly before we go on, is the three of them have been talking about the BBA. And the BBA is an acronym for the Business Breakthrough Accelerator Program. And we are bringing it back. And so I wanted to talk about breakthroughs and then mention the BBA, but I find it very gratifying. And I am grateful that all three of you found your breakthrough at the Business Breakthrough Accelerator Program. So let me talk about it real quick and then we'll get back to that conversation. And then if anybody has any questions for Marie, Jill, or Angela, please put them into chat. So we decided to bring the BBA, the Business Breakthrough Accelerator Program, back because it has so much impact. Almost everybody who goes through it leaves a changed business person, leaves a changed person. So it's happening September 22 through 24 here in Grand Haven, Michigan. But what is it and why is it so powerful? So Susan and I have crafted an experience. And this is important. This is a process. This is an experience. This isn't a seminar. This is a bunch of people, no more than 15 businesses getting together, working together, and that the name of the game is for you to understand what your breakthrough is. And it might be as simple as writing a vision statement. And I'll go back to that in a second. It could be what people have done is people have said, I realize that managing my inventory is my problem. And that if I learn how to manage my inventory, my business is going to accelerate. That was the breakthrough. I remember somebody saying, my breakthrough is I need to close a store. I am not able to manage two stores. I don't have those skills yet. So the experience is crafted so that you get an understanding of what your breakthrough is. Then you build an action plan to accelerate that breakthrough. And, it just is a tremendous, tremendous experience. There's three phases. Before you get to Grand Haven, you do some work so that when you get to Grand Haven, we can all get our hands really dirty. Me, Susan, everybody else in the room. And then there's that phase three, that third phase is when we all work together to make sure that everybody gets their breakthrough. So something else made me very happy just a little while ago. So there's a lot of experiences you can have, a lot of conferences you can have. But these guys, all three of them, were at one of the sessions in 2015. So that's 11 years ago. And when we were talking about it, before we got on, while Marie's got her action
Of
plan.
course she does.
Of course she does. But we went through and we named almost everyone that was in the room.
Mhm.
So think about that. It's a 3-day experience, and everybody, all three of them are remembering the people they went through this experience with. It speaks to
And
the
where they
power.
sat at the table. I can picture everyone.
Is that something? It speaks to the power of the experience. And so, to Marie's point, so she went from I want to close my business to I'm inspired to grow my business. Some people may come to the Business Breakthrough Accelerator program and decide that they want to exit their business. And
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a place where those big ahas happen. And if you're ready for a big aha in your business, if you're ready to break through and get to that breakthrough quickly, it's a great room to be in. So Indy is putting the a link to the page on chat if you want to learn more. One more thing before we get into this conversation. If you're interested in the BBA, the Business Breakthrough Accelerator, I am happy to have a call with you. I'm going on vacation for a couple of weeks here, but if you just get in touch with the office, I am happy to schedule a call. I am happy to talk you through and answer any questions you might have. So, anyway, okay.
So
So,
Bob, I have a quick thing to say though.
of
Sorry. You
course,
know
of
me, I'm
course.
gonna always jump in. Those people have known
Yes.
us for years.
Okay.
I think two things you really hit on about the experience that this seminar can do. One is it's 3 days that I gave myself for the first time in the 4 years I had opened my store to really work in my business. And I think that's really hard for a business owner to walk away when everything rides on your shoulders. And it's like you have to give yourself the space to work in your business. And trust me, it's not always in your office and it's not always in your industry, which I think is really important. And I think it's what you get in the seminar that's amazing, the work you do. But like I talked to Jill, like what, not even a couple of weeks ago on a question. I run into Marie at market all the time. And so the things that you take that are tangible out of the group and out of the work you do is amazing, but the intangibles are just as important.
Isn't that something? That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
I
Yeah.
have something else to share that I actually wrote down before all of this. That the BBA, I was terrified of going there because I was a small little business, I felt. And I thought all these big boys would be there. So I want people to know that it's really a super safe place to be completely honest about your business. It's not going anywhere. People really care about you, and it helps you find the answers that you don't even know that you're looking for.
And I think that that's an interesting statement, Marie, because, and this is where working with me and Susan being in the front and being the facilitators becomes important. And this is, relevant whether you choose to come to Grand Haven or not. But this idea that you don't know what you don't know
Right.
is an important part of growing as a business. And then putting yourself in the room is important. And I just did a Real Retail TV about this, and it was about being in the room.
Hmm.
Being in the room with Jay Conrad Livingston. I'm from Michigan. It's cold in Michigan. It's not as cold as it is in North Dakota, but it's cold in February in Michigan. And I was at the Fontainebleau Hilton in Miami Beach, and I almost skipped that keynote because I wanted to be by the pool. And I was like, no, I'm here to do this thing. And that meeting changed my life. And then going to Randy Gage's Speakers Institute years later, it was a sacrifice. It was a financial sacrifice for Susan and I, but we treated it as an investment. But being in the room,
Hmm.
putting yourself in a position to be open to the questions, to have the space in your head, to your point, Angela, to have that space in your head to really think about what you want. that becomes really, really important. So Jill, I mean, so you've been to our office that's no longer there. By the way, that's a little statement. Everybody, all of the events that we did in our wonderful office in Grand Haven, it's now just a giant hole because they tore the building down and they're putting an ugly hotel up. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, Jill, what would you say to what we've been saying here?
Yeah, no, I mean, if I had to add to the conversation, the thing I would say is there's nothing better than sitting in a room with other business owners who get you. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to, your friends don't understand what you do. Your family never really comprehends it. Even your sometimes your employees or your managers don't really understand what you take home with and deal with at night. Um, and but everybody that was in the room with us all wanted to level up or help the person next to them level up. And I say that lovingly because there's a lot of business owners. You go to your chamber of commerce or you go to another, local business group, and there's just people that don't get it, or they just don't know how to run a store, and they don't want to find a mentor. They don't want to find help. They don't want to go to that next level, and that's nothing. I've never found that with any other whiz bang. That's not the mentality. That's not who you're going to be in a group with. Um, like Angela said, we all still talk or follow each other's businesses and see what's going on. But it's just not. You don't get that anywhere else, which I think that camaraderie speaks volumes when you can call someone and say, I have this problem, or when you start talking to other people in your industry and you're like, oh, like we're not the only ones that deal with it, A, B, and C.
Yeah.
It really helps.
That's great. That's great. So let's get a little more strategic. So I loved, I mean, I absolutely loved the fact that you started with this idea of vision because most people don't think that, right? Most retailers, and I know I'm speaking for myself, didn't even have a business plan, right? I just thought I'd sell some kites. How hard can it be to run a successful store was the way that my underdeveloped brain worked. But then the things that we talk about that we explore, things like business structure and things like that. So when you left, were you thinking at a higher level about how to run your business, not just, where you wanted to go, but were you thinking at a higher level about the things that you knew you needed to do and what were those things? And for anybody who's listening, what would you tell them to think about that they may not be thinking about if they're in the day-to-day grind of their business?
I
Go
think
ahead.
the concept of working less but doing more meaningful work
Hmm.
was like a really big thing that came out of there. It's like very easy to get stuck in the daily grind. We've all been there. And there's days you're going to be in the daily grind. I get that. But I really took away from is like, how do you start tackling your time and your management time and your staff so that you start getting to focus on more meaningful work that creates more meaningful outcomes. So whether it's revenue, whether it's profit, whether it's structures and policies, like those things take time and they usually move the needle pretty significantly when you can tackle them. And I think that's one of the things that you really focus on and you learn and you ask other retailers that are there, like how you successfully navigate that. Because most of us, I would say, were just beginning to, like really think about how we wanted to grow our business over the long term. And so getting the foundation that we all were probably naturally very good at, but getting it structured in a way that we could replicate it, grow it, pass it on, have somebody lead it. Those types of things are really important. And you need to be able to have time in your schedule to do the meaningful work, not the busy work.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. And Marie, you were going to say something?
So I was going to say that when I left there, what I discovered is that I couldn't run that business on instinct. I had worked with my sister for 28 years, and she had done the back of the house, and I had done the front. And turns out she didn't really know the back of the house either. So I had learned from her, which was kind of junk. I'm sorry, Tony, but I learned how not to run a business, but I thought I could do it like she did, just by instinct and just being there and working and working and working. And it didn't work. So when I left, I realized I had learned who, not how. I needed to go to people that knew more than I did and learn from them, and to put systems and foundations in place so that the business could run smoothly whether I was there or not.
That's great.
And both those things were key lessons for me to learn that made me not want to close my business, but to keep going.
That's great. Yes. And that's quite a turnaround to go from I want to close to let's
I'll
go.
do a 1.4 million. That's
Yeah.
okay. I'll do
So,
that.
so I do want to, sort of go back to that because you started talking about this in the very beginning. So you went to the Business Breakthrough Accelerator program in 2015, and you were doing how much in business?
125,000.
And then when you sold your business last year, or not sold it, I'm
I
sorry,
closed it.
closed it because nobody's going to buy a business that floods.
Well, and I just had to get out of it. I couldn't stay with it. So,
Yes.
I did 1.4 million,
So 10
and I
times what?
closed November 1st. So
Yeah.
that was in that year.
And to everybody who's watching this, this is down steps in a small space.
26
That,
steps.
that's it's a real deal accomplishment.
And I want to say that the BBA, and I've done most of the whiz bang programs also. And one thing that I got out of it was a confidence that I didn't have. So, I mean, my other breakthrough was during COVID. I opened a toy store because I knew I'd worked it backwards. I knew I needed to get 30, 40, 50-year-old women down those stairs to buy the other things I had. So the only way to do that was to open a toy store. And I said, okay, that's what I'll do. And that's what worked.
There
And
you
it
go. That's
was,
great.
if it didn't work, it didn't work. I'd be out of business. But it gave me the confidence to take a leap into something that my instinct and my gut told me would work in the town.
That's
And
great.
but with the systems, I could do it. If I didn't have systems in place, I couldn't have opened a big store like that.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. So, Jill, what would you add to all of this?
Yeah. So the one thing that keeps kind of jumping in my head is the messy middle. When you're day to day and you have all these things coming at you, and you go in with a plan of what you think is going to happen for the day, and it falls apart quickly, rapidly, usually right when you walk in the
Immediately
door.
before you get there.
y- y- Coming together or doing, anytime I find that we can sit with a group of other business owners, you start seeing a little bit more clarity, right? It's almost like your own a business clarity break, I guess. Um, but the one thing that kind of keeps, like, I have a lot of remembering of with the BBAs, there was a lot of low hanging fruit during that meeting too. It was like we're so inundated in all the daily stuff that sometimes it's when you slow down and you start talking out loud and you're like, oh my God, we got away from doing this, or we need to revamp our loyalty program, or we need to put more focus on the loyalty program, or we need to open on Sundays. Like, there was a lot of little things that I remember that came from that seemed like it was low hanging fruit, that was really simple, quick, easy to implement, that would also move the needle. So, going back to Angela, like being able to step away from the business and work on the business and actually focus on some of those things and say, well, why aren't we doing that anymore? Or, well, why did we get away from doing that? And it's usually just the messy middle, right? You're doing business and you're trying to put out all the fires, and those things kind of get forgotten about, or pushed till tomorrow, and tomorrow eventually comes a month, 2 months, 6 months,
And years
and trying to
and
get
years.
trying to begin again, get back on track, get those
Yeah.
things done, and refocus.
That's great. And I think that, it speaks to, because now we're, when we're talking about an investment, the Business Breakthrough Accelerator program is not inexpensive. It's not expensive, but it's not inexpensive. It's $5,000. You have to come to Michigan. or drive to Grand Haven if as the case may be, and there's travel and things like that. But you make it back. You make it back so quickly and easily that because there's so many things we talked about the high level, but then I love it that you brought it back to the low level, that
Mhm.
there's this the how. And so there's for instance, I have a private coaching client who's got 60 stores in Hungary, and he hired me for all these giant strategic stuff, and we did all the strategic stuff. But the first 3 months of our relationship was me hammering him on building the average ticket
Mhm.
or working on his pricing. And, just by doing that, I paid for about 10 years worth of his coaching in 2 months, just because, to your point, Jill, there is that low hanging fruit, and that either you don't know about it or you know about it and you've forgotten about it and you just need to get back to it. And so Linda said, but how did these breakthroughs happen? So,
Time and effort. Time and effort. I mean, I'm going to say it's like, it's so easy to be like, there's lots of low hanging fruit. So, like, we might have had a list the first day. Think of like, I'm thinking about that now, Jill. We talked about like how we end our retails, like who's ending at 49 versus 79 versus 99 cents. Do you have a loyalty program? What are your store hours? And so you might have come out with like low hanging fruit, like 5 to 7 action items. And it didn't stop there. It was like when we got home, it was like Jill would be like, Angela, did you change all your prices yet? Or like, hey, guys, I implemented this and in 30 days, I watched my margin go up 20 basis points. And so the how is getting the timeline or the expectations or your strategy that you're willing to commit yourself to, and then holding yourself and the team, the group, you know, holding you accountable for it. And so like
There's
I remember,
nothing better than an accountability partner.
yeah, like you really do. But like I remember having like my vision and my short-term goals and my midterm and my long-term goals like very readily available, and saying, as the owner, as the leader of this group, I have to commit to giving myself time to do that. Like if I've invested $5,000, then I have to give myself the grace and the time to get them done. And that's the how. It's taking yourself out and saying, yes, I can solve all of the daily problems for you, or I can create the policy or the procedure or the operation for you to solve those problems as a store manager or a floor associate, so that I can work on things that are this month, 3 months, 5 months, 1 year out, and start moving the needle. And that's, I think, how we did it, is creating the structure and the space to say, how do I think about this and how do I set the plan in action to make it work? Because
that's great.
everybody had different experiences to say like, oh, I wouldn't do it that way. Like you can't give yourself 3 months. You need to give yourself a goal at 1 month and then at 2 months. Like if you wait 3 months, you're never going to do it.
That's great. So let me go back and answer Linda's question a little more specifically. How do the breakthroughs happen? So the breakthroughs happen. You don't have to come to Grand Haven to have a business breakthrough. But the thing that I want to say, I'm going to talk about breakthroughs in general. Then I'm going to talk about how they work in the BBA. In general, breakthroughs happen with you, to Angela's point, doing some work. Yes, every once in a while, a breakthrough will fall out of the sky like manna from heaven and hit you upside the head. A a blind pig finds an acorn every once in a while. But breakthroughs really happen by working for them, whether it's working for them by personal development, whether it's working for them by investing in yourself in products and programs in the retail mastery system. But they rarely happen by accident. They happen because you show up and you're looking for them. They happened because Susan and I got on a plane and went to San Diego and went to the Speakers Institute because these three came to Grand Haven. So this idea of how happens with and because of intention, but then how it happens in Grand Haven at the Business Breakthrough Accelerator program is, as I said, phase one is you do some homework so that when you get to Grand Haven, you are ready to do the work in that we do in the 3 days. But so first, the day one is really about we set the stage. We talk about mindset, skill set, structure. We talk about foundational stuff so that you understand what you're trying to do. And then the second day is all hot seats. And everybody gets a chance to get in front of the room and talk about their problem or their opportunity, where they're starting to see their breakthrough. And a hot seat is a great experience. I saw Angela and Jill and Marie all, so what's happening is you say, this is what I'm thinking, and then everybody in the room gives you ideas for 20 minutes. So it's a giant brain dump. But the beautiful thing about a hot seat, Linda, is that a hot seat is valuable for the person who is sitting in the hot seat, but a hot seat is also as valuable for the people who are sitting in the room. Because when you're thinking about somebody else's issue, your brain is also processing it in the context of your business. And then, so that's what happens on day two. And then day three is where speaks to Angela and the real how is that you create an action plan. You create a 90-day goal that's associated with your breakthrough. Everybody in the room has different breakthroughs, but what's the goal that's associated with your breakthrough? And then you create a 90-day action plan that gets you to your goal. And then at the end of 30 days, we have a call where we all check in and there's accountability. At 60 days, we have a call and everybody checks in and there's accountability. And at 90 days, there's a call and there's accountability and there's always celebration because everybody hits their goals. Because one of the things that we say in the room is this a good goal? And if some people, no, 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 too big, too small. So the people in the room are giving you feedback on your goals. And by the way, the goal, if you do the work and don't achieve the goal, will give you your money back. So there's this idea of you're really taking no risk. So you're making an investment in your future. You're making an investment in accelerating your future. So I hope that that answers it for you because Angela talked about it very, very tactically. I just described, that I remember in the beginning, I talked about this idea of there's a designed experience to get you through that breakthrough. So that's the how. That's the how. So good. And thank you for that question, Linda. I appreciate it. So do any of the three of you, okay, so you got home and then you made these changes and afterwards you started to see the results. What happened after that? Anything? Tell me more. Tell me more about the experience and what happened, or tell me about what happened to your business.
Well, so that year I went from 125,014 to, I looked it up, I went to 375,000 by a lot of who, not how, and getting bookkeeper, getting in people that for things that I couldn't do. And that allowed me to work on the business and do a real marketing plan and get in wonderful employees. It let me sit back and think about what I really needed. And then the next year I got to about 450. So I
So
kept
you
growing.
basically you not quite, but almost four times your business in 2 years or 3 years.
2 years.
2 years. So I'm gonna bring this around to another concept here. This idea when we're talking about who, not how, this idea that when you invest in a who, somebody who can help you or something that can help you, that who will accelerate your growth. So who, not how. This is very interesting to me that you said that, Marie, because Who Not How is a book that was written by Dan
Mm,
Sullivan and Ben Hardy. And the concept is real simple, right? Don't try to figure out how to do something. Ask yourself, who's already done it? Or
right.
who can show me how to do it? And I'm in a mastermind with people who run their businesses by EOS. And I read the book years ago, and recently, in fact, just this last month, in that mastermind, somebody talked about who, not how. And right now, literally as we're here, I am listening to it on tape again, on tape. I'm listening to it on Audible. I'm listening to it
Yep.
on 8-track on Audible, and it just really so impresses me on what a great concept it is.
You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And it frees you up to do other things. I mean, that's the big thing that I learned in the BBA is that I didn't have to do all of it. I could parcel out the pieces that I just wasn't interested in. And that allowed me to grow my business. That was my breakthrough.
Yeah.
Allowed me to grow my business because I could work on what I love to do.
Well, and the point that I was going to make is that, so that it was an investment, not a cost. One of the concepts in
Right.
Who Not How is that you don't look at these things as cost. You look at them as investment. And if you go into it with the right attitude, that investment will have a real ROI. And for you, you invested
I invested,
$5,000.
well, yeah, I invested in you
And
and Susan. I mean, you're
yeah,
a who. You're a
yeah,
big who. You were the biggest who.
the tallest who,
That's
yes.
right.
Good, good. Angela, Jill, do either of you want to add
Yeah,
anything?
I would just say that the biggest concept of working on your business, not in your business. I think coming out of the BBA, our large goal, our main goal was to get policies and procedures, SOPs, like get that structure in place. So when we did hire a manager, when we did expand, those things were already set in place and ready to go. And that's a big feat, but that needs to have some space away from the business to work on it. You can't be in between customers and writing out your dress code policy. Like it, you have to have that space to think and not be it's uninterrupted time, right? Um, and that led to us being able to work with an attorney to put our handbook, get the legalities for our handbook and do some of those other things that needed to happen and are important to happen. But it's hard to get them done when you're constantly on the sales floor or helping customers or doing damage control or whatever might need to happen that day. So that concept of working on your business and not in your business um, really was a good mindset shift for us.
Good. Wonderful. Thank you. Angela, you're nodding your head up and down.
I mean, it's just, I mean, it was so many things, but I think, if you look within the 90 days, I think one of our biggest successes was, again, the foundation, store operations, policies, procedures. We all know what they should be. It was very loose in my store. I had a very small staff that we called jobbies. It was like family and friends that
I,
would
I
hire
love
me.
that term so much.
Do you love it? I don't know. But we kind of
We loved
chuckled
it
I
about it
then.
love it as a
for,
term.
yeah, we kind of chuckled about it because we had this great staff, but it was very loose because they were all people I knew and loved and they would do anything for me, but it didn't create consistency. It didn't create the environment for my customers every time they came in. It didn't give me the confidence to walk away from my business and know it was going to be the same. And so those first 90 days, it was a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. Like we spent a ton of time doing
Mm.
policies, procedures, store operations, and it probably took me a full year to get it really polished where I felt really comfortable with it. And I don't know if I would have really tackled it at that point in my
No.
career or at the store if I didn't have the BBA because I was working towards an expansion that was going to happen. We had a lot of other fun stuff, marketing stuff and plans and events and everything that I love doing. And I don't know if I would have spent the time, effort, and really the need to do it that you have to if you're going to grow your business. It will collapse if you don't have the foundation built.
That's great. And so, just to sort of bring this all home, and you can all reflect on what I'm going to say in just a second, but this has been a really fun conversation for me because it's sort of now I'm playing back all the things that we did together in my head. But
Bob, we've all grown up a little bit.
yeah, a lot, a lot. Um, and I see another question here from Merle Norman in Texas, and I'll get to it in just a second. But the thing that I'm hearing from you guys, that's so, again, I'm so proud of all three of you for what you've done, is this idea of you came in with good businesses, you came in with a passion, you came in wanting more. You came in wanting more. And the breakthroughs happened because you wanted more.
Mhm.
You made a commitment. You got here, you paid the $5,000. You made a commitment to yourself, but then you got it because you did the work. We were working on the web page for it, and one of the things that is very common when you write copy is who is this for and who is it not for? You should come if, you should stay away if, and really you should come if you want more and you want a plan and you're willing to do the work. And the three of you came, you did the work, and now, I'll just share with everybody here. All three of them have been in the Platinum Mastermind group in the past, for several years,
Together.
all of them. And, I mean, and you don't get into the Platinum Mastermind group unless you're a successful retailer who has that kind of attitude. So, anyway, let me read Merle Norman's. My current goal is to redo my policies and procedures by having AI look at my current information. What would you guys say to that?
Still talk to your attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
good for
mean,
an overview, but it might
I
not
mean,
know
there's
your circumstance.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I mean, I love AI. I mean, if you can streamline it and it can get you 75% of the way there,
Yeah.
hats off that AI exists now. It didn't exist in 2016, or none of us were using it yet. So,
Right.
I mean, I always think it's a great foundation. Like, but really, you've got to get really good at your prompts of asking, like, where are you located? What's the legality? You still need to have somebody proofread it. You still have to make sure it sounds like you. So I have AI, and I've spent a good time, like, really training AI to know who I am and what kind of policies and procedures and tone and expectations and feel and everything. So it does a good job, but it's not going to replace you. So if it gets you 75% of the way, so you don't have to spend 3 months just writing your first draft, and you can do it in a week, and then you can spend the next 2.5 months fixing it and tweaking
Yeah.
it for you, and then somebody reviewing it for 60 days like a lawyer or your HR team. That's awesome. Use it, but it's never going to replace you. It
yeah.
can't.
And and the thing that I want to say to you is good. You're working on policies and procedures
Mhm.
because so many people don't. And that really does become foundational. So, just to sort of bring this all home, again, it's the Business Breakthrough Accelerator Program here in Grand Haven, September 22 through 24. There is some homework on the front side. You spend the 3 days here, and then we have check-in calls at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. But I think that you've heard from the three of them, if you're ready, if you feel like your business is ready to break through, if you feel like you're ready to break through, it really is a great, great, great investment of your time and your money. And, this, you can't do it alone. You have to have other people. It is a who, not how. And Susan and I would love to be part of your who. So again, there's only 15 businesses that the room is small. Since our office isn't here, we're going to be doing it at the Grand River Sailing Club right on the river.
Ooh.
I know it's going to be it's a great little place. And it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll make lifelong friends. You'll learn a lot. You'll grow a lot. It's one of those events that will change your life, and I hope that you'll choose to be there with us. So, Marie, Jill, Angela, thank you all for being here. And for all of you who are here live with us, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your time and attention. And even if you don't come or can't come to Grand Haven, I hope that you found inspiration and information here that will be helpful for you and your business and your life. So thank you. All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you later.